Hey guys, welcome to Techzim. And today we're joined by our old friend Gary here, the man behind Zimpricecheck. And he's no stranger to Techzim. In fact, he's written for us many times before, even doing it full time at one point.
Yeah.
So,
It's been a while, though.
It's been a while.
It's been a decade.
Is it been a decade?
Yeah, close to that.
Close to a decade.
Yeah.
Never a decade.
Yeah, maybe 6, 7, 8 years.
6, 7, 8 years.
But yeah, I keep close.
But it's been close since 2009, 2010?
2010.
2010, yeah.
Yeah, 2009 was like that time I see it as a college.
And it was communication by email. Then we met in 2010, isn't it?
Yeah, 2010. Still in the office.
Alexander Park.
Alexander. Yeah.
Oh.
So it's me.
I didn't even know. Alex Park.
Yeah. Alex
The
Park.
kids in secondary school now. Someone born in 2009 and we're doing Form 4 this year.
We're old. We are old.
Damn!
I know.
So we got Gary here and we wanted to have a proper conversation about internet service providers in Zimbabwe. What's available, what works, what doesn't work, and but the crazy thing for me is it may not feel like it, but it's actually the best it's ever been right now in Zimbabwe.
Yes.
Because over the past 2 years we've seen several players enter the market. These new MVNOs, these global.
But that's the thing, though.
Yeah.
To be honest, I still remember we wrote about Techzim in 2014.
Yes.
So yeah, they might seem new, but I think most of the delays were regulatory, so to speak, and then people were trying to figure out how it would fit in the current landscape. They were established players, and then they wanted to, protect the cake, so to speak, but they also wanted to figure out how they could best work with the MVNOs. So I think the delay was justified, maybe extended, but justified.
Justified.
Yeah, justified. It was a new thing. Yes. Unlike in South Africa, we've always been late adopters when it comes to technology. For example, I still remember ringtones. They were sold in South Africa before it even became a thing, remember, in Zimbabwe. Yeah, so we didn't have a market for that, and then when it was introduced, it was a little bit late. And so
we already moved on.
Smartphones don't need ringtones.
We don't need this, yeah. So we just set any song. Okay. So so right now we have options, but I guess the biggest challenge right now still remains coverage.
Yeah.
Because we do have a number of options now, but not everyone has these options. In many places, actually, it's just one or two.
Okay, so the way I see it, I think we do have enough players, but it's the home technology, like I mentioned in our channel. We do have like a lot of LTE mobile like last mile solutions. I think the last mile solutions is the issue. We tend to focus on mobile because it's the cheapest, it's what people can afford. If you look at service like in CBDRI and Hutchins and so on, most people don't own the homes they live in, and so they're not willing to spend money to install fiber, to install ADSL and so on. So at the end of the day, everyone is just like doing LTE because it's the most accessible. All you need to do is get a MiFi device for like $25, get a phone for like $100. Like we already have smartphones, and so you just put in your SIM card and you're now connected. And with the Econet, it's easy, so it's just a matter of buying a bundle.
Yeah.
So most of our internet connections are through mobile, like overwhelmingly. So at the end of the day, that creates a problem because we just have demand. We're chasing LTE, and LTE we have like a lot of constraints. We've got like the spectrum that they use is also limited as well. So at the end of the day, they need to manage the resources. So we can understand their side of things, but it hurts the customer as well. If you're the customer, the one on the receiving end, you feel like if you are aggrieved because you feel like you're being overcharged and so on.
Yeah.
But I think even if we were to introduce new players, we'll be just using the same resources. Look at what happened in Starlink. You talked about big players entering the market. So to me, I feel like Starlink was really the game changer. They came with this new technology and they pilfered a lot of like high value clients from the existing players in the market. And so they were afraid and they tried to stop that from happening, and they might have overcorrected a little bit. So they changed the bundles, they reconfigured the way they were doing businesses and so on. But you still see Starlink can no longer compete in a hurry because limited capacity. If this was fiber, this would be different. Like if there's going to be a new player, they have to be willing to like put in the infrastructure for alternative last mile solutions that can cater for the number of people there. Like if we were to have fiber in every household, there would be not much demand for LTE. And obviously, if there's less demand, we've seen what happened with voice calls. So voice calls were very expensive. I still remember there was a time they would charge by the minute. Whether you use that minute or not, they would be like, you spoke for 5 seconds. Yeah, you spoke for 5 seconds, we'll charge for the whole minute, give us some money and so on. But once demand for voice calls started to decline, especially after the X2 phones, everyone's now on WhatsApp and so on. So there's not much demand for voice services. You see that these players, they feel like we have less leverage now. They're obviously going to pivot and try to find ways to entice with voice bundles and so on. I strongly feel that the same thing will happen if we invest in more fixed solutions like fiber, LTE, and not LTE, fiber, and other similar solutions that allow for more players, also like more customers compared to what we have with LTE. So that's my take.
And it does make sense. I think the question is always if they see this kind of demand, it is there, it's starting proof for everyone that there is demand for these kind of packages. Why hasn't there been investment in this kind of infrastructure?
Yeah, the thing though is, I think it's about perception. I feel like the big players, you see this in the way they handle new technologies. Like as soon as they handle, like people are complaining that Econet, SmartBiz bundles have been removed from the table. Now it's SmartSuite. But what most people don't realize that before all this, there were other bundles. Like when 5G was introduced, there were other bundles in the early days. With 5G, there were like a couple of base stations in Harare. These bundles were going for as high as 1,500, if I'm not mistaken, like on the Econet website. And these bundles were targeted towards business customers. They want fast internet and so on. So they were priced like even higher than fiber, which is a little bit strange because if you can afford those bundles in their business, you're not really. If you can afford fiber and you have 3-4 base stations, one it up and the one there and so on. Like it's not like the whole town is covered, so you can justify this and say, hey, when you're on the move, you can't take your fiber with you. So these are the bundles. So they were expensive, but there is a logic to that. Behind that, if you understand the mindset of most businesses, especially formal businesses. So they feel like things can change a lot in Zimbabwe. There's always that risk in terms of the regulatory environment, in terms of the currencies and so on. So there's that unspecified risk, so to speak. So what they do is whenever there's a new technology, let's say there's 5G, they go out there, they buy base stations. Someone is financing that. It's very expensive. Each base station, I don't know what's the cost like. At some point it was like $200,000 per base station. So you're buying that, you're putting money upfront because those who make base stations, they want their payment. And it's not just a once-off payment. They also need to be serviced. They also need to pay for license fees and so on. And all that equipment has to be looked after. So it's expensive. You spend 10, 20 million in your expansion to expand the network. And you want to make sure that money, you recoup that money. You want to recoup that money. So given the unspecified, like the unknown risk of what might happen tomorrow in terms of your business, you want to recoup that as quickly as possible. I think there lies the problem. Because in order for you to do that, you have to increase the cash flows that you get, like business fee, the money that you get from those base stations. In order to do that, you have to charge as much as possible. So the strategy, the pricing strategy for most of these new technologies has been price skimming. So you start with a very high price and then you skim that layer. It seems everyone, you have exhausted the market and you've saturated the market. Not many people are coming in. You reduce the price a little bit, you skim. You reduce the price again, you skim and so on. And I think with Econet, what happened was when Starlink came along, they disrupted that skimming strategy. So they were never really going to reduce because they always gave us excuses. Hey, this is not viable, this is not viable, and so on. So when Starlink came, the Starlink threat, they were, I think, shook a little bit, and then they decided to rush and then introduce something to counter what they perceived as a threat to their market. So that's why it explains the pricing point for $5 for 5 megabits. You can see with the 5 megabits, a lot of people complaining they it's like that's not much. So, but it was still usable, to be honest. Like you could do most of the things that you want to do on the internet, 90% of the stuff you can still do with that. What you cannot do is open an internet cafe. That's something that you can do. So you could do that. You can do it with a lot of things, but I don't think they were ever really happy. Like this is just me speculating. I don't think they were ever really happy about that change. They felt like they had their own thing, their own pricing strategy where they recoup the expenses, and Starlink disrupted that, and they were forced to pivot, and then they had these SmartBiz bundles. And then look at the market now. Most of the users are in Harare. They feel like it seems like we overreacted a little bit. And we can go back to our old ways. We can do things the way we wanted to do them. Of course, I'm not saying it's not justified. Like I pointed out, there is a logic behind everything, but it's not the internet cafe. It's not the customer's fault. Like I think part of the problem, why I feel like the reason why a lot of people feel a little bit angry is because the way it was communicated is like the customer is to blame for some of, like that's the take most people got from this. The customer is to blame for these changes. I don't think it's the customer.
I think that was the biggest problem, blaming it on the customer. I think they made mistakes themselves in communication and actual structuring the packages themselves. It does appear they did oversubscribe to a point, because we started seeing a lot of performance challenges after SmartBiz became really popular, when they got to around 100,000 wherever they were. So it does feel like they did not anticipate the kind of
problems. Because like I feel like this whole thing where we have them communicating saying, there were some people that were taking a lot of resources and so on. But that's like, you're going to find that every network operator, even in South Africa, I still remember there's this publication by Broadband, so to say. They have this publication where they publish the list of bandwidth blocks, people that abuse internet. Zimbabweans are not going to be anywhere. I still remember there's a guy who used like 500 terabytes of data in 1 month.
500 terabytes?
Yeah, because they have fiber, but that's the thing though.
Guy was approaching a petabyte.
I don't know, I think he had a Flex server, it was actually using this as a hosting connection. People connecting to his computer at home, which
because I couldn't use that kind of data if I wanted to.
The majority of people don't abuse the internet. So if this was the issue, all Econet had to do, and they have access to the best software that can do that, all they had to do was manage the network. Because this is not a unique problem. You're not going to tell us like there are people that are abusing the internet. Like they're always doing. I bet you there are people that are abusing the internet right now. There are people who use things like VPN. They don't even pay. They try to look for loopholes in the system and abuse. So abuse, really, you can't be using that. So that is an excuse to make that sudden switch. So it's probably the way they package this did not suit the business model that they feel like they need to be using in order to maximize revenue. And after at the end of the day, it's a business. So we understand that it's the messaging that most people are angry with, because you can't blame us. You say, hey, we've got this large piece of cake, come take a slice, you can have as many slices as you want. And then you're angry, someone is taking all the slices. It's there, it's unfair. I know, it feels like someone is doing something wrong. But then at the end of the day, it's something that it comes. And then you talked about like they made mistakes. Even like I had a friend like in the community asking about the free cloud storage. What is it? What was it? That was never explained to us. Like it's a mystery that's there, and it's there, and no one is taking accountability for that. I feel like that part, customers, I understand.
Yeah.
There were people that were abusing the system. That's true. That's very true. Yeah. But you can't, you yourself are expected to meet your obligations. But unfortunately, I feel like in Zimbabwe, businesses have got this mindset where they defend and they defend and they defend and they defend their position without really taking any accountability for their role in whatever would have gone wrong. Like we also messed up. Yeah. Because oversubscribed it means that like something went wrong and someone is to blame. The customers, I don't think so. I feel like it's unfair to blame them for expecting a good service.
True. And especially when you consider that we may call it abuse, but if it's within, if it's not breaking the terms and conditions, then it's not abuse. Because I remember doing a calculation at some point to say, okay, if I was downloading from the moment I subscribed and I was getting the maximum 5 megabits per second for a whole month, how much data would I use? And it's not that much, to be honest.
Yeah,
it's not that much. Yeah. And so I was wondering, okay, so to say these abusers and internet cafes and everything, it feels like scapegoating the
they just need to say, okay, this was working.
Yeah.
Someone needs to take the responsibility, but it's not the customer.
Yeah, it's not
like it might feel wrong, but I don't feel it's the customer who's supposed to do. Because even if you look at the first undisclosed, like usage limit that they introduced before they made, they killed the whole suite of 200 gig. Yeah, they didn't want to disclose that. That's fine. We see it a lot with ISPs. They don't want to disclose that because they feel like it's security through obscurity. Like people don't know, they're not going to.
But which is true.
Because
when you don't know what the limit is, you kind of
because like I feel like. What I would do is if I knew the limit was 200, if I used 150 and it's the last day, I would try to use as much as possible. My limit.
Yeah, I think we all do that.
So it's a good idea. But how did they arrive at the 200 gig? That was like less than half of what they promised. And of course, the mysterious cloud storage never materialized. But then I also feel like they also did a disservice to themselves because giving free storage would allow them to be more than, because I know for a fact that they want to be more than just the mobile network. It's not just about data, so because they want to future-proof their business. I feel like this was a lost opportunity for them to market that data thing. They could even have introduced, like, if we get a taste of what it feels like to use the cloud storage, who knows? There are a lot of people out there who might have a use case for this. But then, unfortunately, it just went away. It's not just them, by the way. I feel like most ISPs in Zimbabwe, they don't really bother with going beyond connectivity. Even if they have resources, we see the same thing with Dolphin Tech as well and so on. Like even Liquid themselves, they've had web hosting for decades, but it's like they don't even want to market it that way. Like, by the way, we also have web hosting if you want it. And then you're looking for the prices because people who want these services, they want to see prices. Of course, maybe it's just me being a Zimpricecheck pricing guy, but I want to see the price. There's web sim, this costs so much and so on. But give us a call. And then after a 3, 4, 5 minute call, that's when you get the price. Then at the end of the day, especially prices that you get that way, you ask yourself, is this the fair price? Is everyone paying this? Or is it just me? And so on.
Okay, because it's not transparent.
It's not transparent. So it's one of those inbox me for the price.
We share when it's that kind of experience. So I think we got into what went wrong with SmartBiz. That's where we started.
What went wrong? Because it's obviously like given the way we observe the market, because most of the time we have these communities, or you guys in communities, communities in the sector. Those are the things that we're hearing. So it's not just my opinion, it's just a condensation of what everyone is saying. People are aggrieved, like they feel like for the up till the time a business promised them something, didn't deliver, and then you blame them because they have no voice. So I'm not. It's not just me. And if you were to go to an Econet post right now on any social media platform, I'm sure that this is the conversation that they're having. Like very angry people. We of course.
1.6 terabytes.
It's 1.6 terabytes.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you max out
5 megabits.
It's 1.6.
So of which
that's every second.
Every second of every day for the whole month.
Yeah.
So that's the abuse. Just 50% over the FUP limit.
That's assuming that they, unless I'm mistaken, there was sort of like a suggestion that they actually didn't cap it.
Well, I use this. I took the time to actually, whenever I get an internet connection, I don't lie. The first few days, I really test it out. I try to make sure I understand. I even look at, we're going to talk about this obviously later, but I also look at how the traffic is being routed, which gateway is being used, and so on. So with SmartBiz, so in the early days, they were not keeping it. I don't know, some were saying it's the inability, or they are still trying to work out the kinks and so on. But at some point they started keeping it. So SmartBiz was one of those unique bundles. One of the reasons why it was popular was one of those unique packages where you actually get many times more in terms of speed than what was advertised. This was a very rare thing in Zimbabwe, because I've been using internet since 2005 or something, and that almost never happens. You exceeding the advertised speed. It does happen with me sometimes, but I think it's a technical issue. Maybe they're configuring the software, and then you see that the speed is just passed through the cap. So even after they introduced, they started enforcing the speed caps, there was still that bestable limit. That's the reason why, the moment you do your test, when this test is just starting, you will see that best in speed up to 10 megabits. So you will get double. I'm not sure about the other more expensive packets, but you get double the speed. And for that's it, but that makes sense, because it means this is when they were listening. I feel because it makes sense. Especially if you're consuming things like that. So let's take, for example, you're trying to play Netflix, a Netflix video. So during the first few 10-20 seconds, that's when the video is still buffering and so on. So they make sure that you build a good buffer, so there are no interruptions. So it makes sense. You see this a lot with other international players, not locally. So I was like, that's nice. And then it was gone. Eventually they introduced the cap, the heat and cap, and then at some point, and here we are.
Which I guess the other problem which comes from that is, we understand the FUP limits and you being throttled after you reach a certain threshold. But the understanding is you're throttled, but you can still use the internet. The internet seems to have gone the extra mile to throttle you to an extent that you can't even use it. Which was strange.
That was a strange thing. I would assume they have the best software in the world. I'm not sure what software they're using. Probably Zimpricecheck. We're just speculating here, because that's the world standard. Everyone's using Zimpricecheck. But I don't know the way this was being implemented. You would, remember, I do the tests. So you do these tests, not a formal test, and then I'm not going to commit here. But you would do this, you would send out these packets, and then you would notice a lot of them were being dropped to the extent where the connection would be unusable. So I don't know how they were reducing these speeds. It just made the internet unusable. So even loading a single page, so technically you're looking like you're getting 1 megabit per second. It seemed like the used limit, or 2, I'm not sure, between 1 and 2. But still, you would find that you have a old degraded experience to the point where you had a connection you couldn't use. So it wasn't just a speed cap, Something was going on there. It could be a mistake. It could be, I don't know, maybe that was by design. Because you had an internet connection that was working, even for those very light tasks.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it was essentially a 200 gigabyte limit.
Not an FTP.
Yeah, not an FTP. Because you had an internet connection.
Yeah. So it was essentially a hard cap.
Yeah, it was a hard cap.
So that's
maybe you could not even use it midnight, early morning. Could you?
So you couldn't. That's the thing. Like with most players, we understand that most people are sleeping, right? They have these extra resources that they have. No one is utilizing them. So most of them, with Liquid, this is the company for Econet. They are quite generous. They're like, if it's after hours, use as much as what we saw. Like this has been the norm for decades now. Even Taiwan, at some point, they visit like with satellite before Starlink became a thing. So these outlets at like these terminals at outposts like road points and so on. So they were internet cafes being modeled around those. But you still have this data cache because visit was very expensive. But they understood the fact that people need to maybe update their computers, their softwares, and so on. So at night, no one is really using those connections. So they'll say, we don't count data after hours. Do whatever you want as long as after hours. But now with SmartBiz, it was different. I actually got in touch with the support. Hey guys, so what about after hours? Why is this still terrible after hours? Because I was trying to be honest, like no one communicated. That's the problem with SmartBiz.
Yeah, communication.
No one communicated that there had been a change. There were these vague messages after people had complained, hey, we're now trying to make this better. So that wasn't very nice. To be honest. You were having to play detective in order to get the truth. So I got in touch, what about after hours? And all I get was just a kid reply. SmartBiz is no after hours. Like, what? But surely they know because they sell data bundles where you can get extra. You can get data in the dead of night because they know no one's using this. And so, that was another data to swallow. Like, even after hours, I can't use this.
Once you hit the limit,
it's done. You're done.
There's no off-peak, there's no this, there's no that. Which was strange.
Yeah, which was strange. But then again,
it's business. But so we got into what went wrong. But overall, how was your experience using SmartBiz? From the moment you signed up to when? So let's say from introduction to the 200 gig introduction.
Okay, so I was a little bit late because actually the SmartBiz game. To be honest, it goes back to the communication issue. These bundles, like I knew of them because I talked to the reps and so on, but I wasn't so sure because, to be honest, this is like I've used the internet for a long time and I've had my brushes with various ISPs and so on. So this is not the first time this has happened. So I still remember, was it 2009 when GPRS was introduced? I don't know, I'm not sure, but around 2009. So they introduced this, and I was one of the first people. Unfortunately, Justice was the norm back then. The lines were no longer available officially, so I had to go through someone who came to Harare. I wasn't in Harare back then, I was doing school. So I came to Harare because I had been waiting for this for so long, And I come to Harare, I buy this line through a reseller. And then I put it in my phone, and it seemed like everything was right in the world. In Harare, we would get 3G, which was really good. And then it was uncapped for like $20. This was the USD. Uncapped internet for $20. So there's not the first time. It has actually happened quite a number of times by the way.
Oh, really?
So I get this line and then I take it back to Nyang. Of course, there was no 3G there. 3G was still new technology and so on. And so I started using this and then at some point one day Econet woke up and they're like, this is now per megabyte. Per megabyte, sorry. This is now per megabyte. Like just like that. That started switch.
Overnight.
And then they did the same thing. They introduced WiMAX. I'm not sure when they did that, but in the past decade, they introduced WiMAX as well, and then they made a certain switch it's not working for us anymore. They didn't just introduce that. Remember, we talked about the cloud offering that they had. They introduced Econet, which was branded as Econet broadband. I still remember. You could also get an email address. Your phone number is your email. It was cool. I'm 077 blah blah, and so it makes it easy to email other people and so on. Unfortunately, it's like no one really talked about email. You make a call and you want email. It seems like some of the people that you're talking to are not even sure how it works as well. So I was kind of reluctant, to be honest, but then I was running out of options. I do a lot of surveys in the field and so on, and this seemed like a good solution. So I just trying to find out how it worked. In the first was you can't use this in your phone. Why? You can use the Wi-Fi. Right now, why do you need a Wi-Fi device in order to get to get this? But now it kind of makes sense since now geolog, because you have to carry your phone around. But this one's in geolog, so why do you need Wi-Fi? So I just went to Econet first. But some people that are going to join us to think you can't get online. Give us a router. If you don't have a router, either you buy ours or you go look for compatible router and so on. You can't sign up and so on. So another confusion, what's going on there? What are you really trying to sell? And so eventually I was lucky, to be honest. My onboarding process was last year, it was smooth. It took me 5 minutes and I was done. I already have another implement. So it was really easy. Just ID, and in a minute it's okay, pay for $5. I paid for $5, took my fiscal invoice. They put the line in my phone. It's working. I didn't even need to configure anything there. I felt why should I be buying the Wi-Fi device? And I think a lot of people had the same mentality as well. To me, honestly, it wasn't something that I was going to use. I have another connection. This was not something that I was going to use at home. It was just for me when I'm on the move. I need to make WhatsApp calls instead of buying those kept bundles of the business. So it was great for a while. And then the whole caps.
So before the caps,
everything was fine. To be honest,
because we did, so people say, I'm not getting the advertised.
Yeah, to be honest, for me, I don't lie. I can't say I can always diagnose my own problems before I call support. So I know sometimes I've got a pretty good idea of what's going on. So I know, for example, that they routed SmartBiz data differently. They had a different gateway dedicated for that. So it's a little different. So, for example, you get a different IP address, it was a whole dedicated stuff. So usually, remember we talked about one of the problems with internet in Zimbabwe is the last mile solution. OT, only a limited number of people can connect to the base station at a given time. So that's usually the question. That's where the congestion is coming from. The base station is limited capacity. This one is the base station is usually a fiber backbone. The fiber is happy to take your internet traffic to the wider internet, but unfortunately there's limited spectrum. So it's a technical thing, kind of like with Starlink, as you said. Starlink. The Starlink, they have plenty of capacity, as long as it's not satellite capacity. So they can do a lot, but in the last mile solution, unfortunately, that's where the problem is. So whenever people were having issues, especially those that couldn't touch me out, first of all, there's a 30-cent bundle. Buy that, test your internet connection. If you're still getting terrible speeds, it's not a SmartBiz issue. So around 99% of the time, it wasn't SmartBiz when it came to speeds. That's why people are so angry. It went so well, and it gave them a glimpse of what could be. But unfortunately, they feel like
So that makes sense, because that was my experience with SmartBiz as well. I had an excellent experience. I tested it in various locations, various cities, and everything. And
I took it rural.
I took it rural as well. And I always got at the limit, and I wasn't getting any drop packets or anything, so I was getting good speeds. And I would give the password to a number of people to see what the limit was when it came to users. And of course, we were limited by the speed. But when we were not streaming video the whole time, when people were, someone's on WhatsApp, someone is doing this, someone's scrolling on Facebook, and maybe someone's on YouTube or something, you would not see any hiccup at all. So it was really brilliant, and I guess that's why people are angry. And I think Econet has to understand this, that this anger comes from saying, this was a really good product.
Yeah,
for most.
No offense, Smart Suit doesn't seem like I don't want to lie. I saw it and I'm like, not for me. I'm not going to go. It's not like it's expensive compared to the normal bundle. So if you're coming from the normal bundle thing, it's not really like that expensive. It makes financial sense. But if you're coming from SmartBiz, that's one hell of
it is.
I feel like I've never done drugs, but from what I know from the movies, like you were getting the good stuff, and now they suddenly withdraw, you're shaking, and so on. It was like $30
for 50 gigabytes. Because I think that context is important to say. If you were getting, if you're paying $13 for 10 gigabytes for the private Wi-Fi bundle, and someone says, you know what, instead of paying 13 for 10 gig, add another $17 and you get 50 gig. That's a good deal. If SmartBiz had never been in the picture, people would be celebrating.
The other strange thing with SmartBiz is, why are you locking me to the more expensive bundles? Like, I go to the phone, I'm trying to get that $30 bundle. It means almost everyone who was on SmartBiz is now locked into the business packages.
Yeah.
So it's starting at 70. So this is a more for less.
Yeah, it is.
You're asking for double the amount.
Because SmartBiz was $45 with an FUP limit of 200 gig. If you still want a 200 gig limit, it's $70 now. So
I know
$70 for 45, which is
and then there's
massive price.
And then with the speed thing, I don't want to lie. I remember I said, I just need to listen and say, this is not for me. Like, besides, geolocking it killed the whole thing for me, because remember, I'm on the move and so on. So geolocking for me is a terrible way to administer the internet. Just I remember what I talked about. The real issue in Zimbabwe is we don't have good last mile solutions. So geolocking is like with them trying to take LTE technology and then making it fixed internet instead of investing in real last mile fixed solutions. And then they're just taking LTE and then making it do what it was never meant to do. It was never meant to be fixed, to be honest. It's about roaming and moving from cell to cell, and then this ridiculous thing where you say you can't leave your address with your LTE line. Come on, if you guys want that, I understand you can't do copper, obviously. It's not. But find something else. Like, what I would prefer is, I don't know why no one has explored that. I understand in high-density suburbs where a lot of people are having fiber at each doorstep. Remember we said those who are renting are not willing to fork out money to pay for the installation. But at the landlords as well, they are willing, people are willing to pay me as well. But why not do something like what Zoe had in mind when those Zoom packages, go there, install a Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi access point at the corner of every street. If people want internet, they can just buy a scratch card, scratch the card, you put the code, you get 10 gig, you get 5 gig, you get. That's like Wi-Fi, and Wi-Fi access point would be the best solution, because Wi-Fi has got more bandwidth, it covers a small area, which means you can have the people next door are not being impacted by consumption, so to speak. Instead of saying, hey, this is an LTE base station that covers 20, it feels like, of course, I understand the cost part, but I feel like they don't save much given the cost of a base station by investing, by making people connect. LTE was never meant to be geolocked. It's like 5G. Why are you geolocking this?
Yeah, all point of the tech is
Yeah,
to be mobile.
if you want, to be mobile. And then you're about, that just makes it terrible. They really need to invest in fixed last mile solutions. We all understand what the problem is.
Remember though, they had, I think they tried, I think 10 years ago, they tried overhead fiber in Warren Park, was it?
Yeah, that's why the Zoom packages.
Yes. But that didn't work apparently.
That didn't
Well,
work.
maybe it was ahead of his time.
Yeah,
Because I think the idea, I don't know
and the
the
marketing
details,
as well.
but the idea was, let's do this test, pilot, let's see how it goes. In Warren Park, high density, instead of trenching, we'll use existing poles, so we reduce the cost of the capital outlay.
Yeah, but
apparently it didn't work.
yeah, maybe
But maybe it was ahead of his time.
Yeah, that, and then of course the installation part, because remember, that's like, I live in high-density areas, like I've done a lot of work there. The problem is no one is willing to pay for the actual last mile installation, like installing the routers.
Oh, I think they're not charging.
They were not charging.
If I remember well, they were not charging for that as well. Their idea was, once you connect you'll have this, there's no other service. So you will have this for like the total lifetime value or something like that of a customer is really huge. It will cover the it was the same time they were installing for free in the we call them Western. The other side of somewhere, yes. It was the same time that they were doing that free installation.
Yeah, that you mentioned.
But apparently it didn't work.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see like the report on that. Unfortunately, they have it somewhere. I love like research like that, because it will give interesting insight into exactly what's going on, so why it didn't work. Yeah, being ahead of his time. And then there's terrible marketing. I won't lie. When it comes to business, to big business, I feel like maybe it's the clientele that they're expecting. So you see them playing golf with and they have these good marathons and good promotion. Like if you go to, I don't know, Pinona, you would see these giant signs, fiber available this area, you're entering a fiber zone, and they would actually mention this is a fiber POP in this area and so on. And then you go to the identity say roadshow, the people dancing, in a track. At the end of the day, once you have given us free t-shirts, people are confused. what were those guys talking about and so on? Like, I know that roadshows, especially for retail orders, they do have the use case. So, for example, you have companies like Proton launching new orders, Mr. Chimba and so on and so on. Sometimes it makes sense. But like a roadshow for EcoCash. And then you've got these chaya points. Like, I don't even think people understand some of these things. Like, they're so complicated. Most people are just transacting.
I know I don't.
Yeah, you don't?
Yeah,
me too.
And with chaya EcoCash, I'm like, I'm using EcoCash. I don't really understand this thing. But who knows?
Maybe.
One day I might see my name on some TV screen or someone call me and say, what did I try? But I don't really know what.
But I think that is the idea. That's the idea.
But it doesn't get me to use EcoCash. It doesn't get me to use EcoCash more. It doesn't. I already use EcoCash. I know the chances are remote for me winning Chaya, so I'm not trying to understand it so that I maximize my chance of winning. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
But like there
is nothing to understand.
There is
nothing?
Yeah, it's user based. If you transact more, you spend.
Do people know?
So yeah. Do people know? Because I think sometimes, because what I realize is I don't get to hear some of these adverts and everything, but they do parrot it out like loudly. No, check the more you
roadshow with people dancing.
But the thing is, I think we have to compare it to something like Great Challenge.
Great Challenge. Yeah. There are also sports prizes, isn't it? If you get into I think.
And so these guys have these other.
Yes, and you know the more, so they give you, you might not understand this thing, but here's some coupons. Fill these in and drop them in there. Who knows? Because I might get a call. And with China, I don't even know
how the points are calculated.
I don't even know,
No, but I think you would GP.
Why?
Because it's it's really simple to understand.
Yeah, I know.
And you understand how it works. And because I think with OK Grain Challenge, it was easier because you have to be in a physical shop and you are buying your groceries and so it's easier to say, okay, oh no, by the way, we have this challenge and would you like to be entered into this promotion?
The way they
so
would
they send out their checks.
with OK, so I go into supermarket with OK, even the people that are sitting on those deals, they know how to expand. And then OK has said this for like decades now. And people really understand it. The problem with e-commerce, like I've done a surveys and asked people and so some 90% of the people are confused. And that's a problem. I know
how many points do you how many times do you need to transact on Econet for you to qualify? Is there a minimum?
For the weekly
is it a weekly? There's a weekly price?
Yeah. And then
is it a monthly minimum? Is it a daily minimum? Is it a weekly minimum? Or however little you transact, you are in the running. What does it take?
Because the way I understand it is just you have this many points, you have this many points, and so if you have more points, you have a higher chance of winning. Because if it's a pie of okay, there we've given out 1,000 points. Let's just use that hypothetical. And Limbikani is, I said 1,000. So and you have 500 points, and Garikai is 100, and I have maybe some. You stand a higher chance, you have a higher probability because you have more points. That's just how.
So there's no minimum.
So I could win with my fewer points, and that's just how it works. But that's my understanding of it, because. And so I think it's simple in that way. You don't have to do anything. You could just get a call. You've won the weekly prize. You've got some airtime, or maybe when the whole promotion ends. But I
feel like that's the problem. That's the problem, though. Like people are not making the people that I know at least are not making the connection between the number of the number of times or the amount like that. So what do you need to do that's not being communicated? So my point was about marketing. Sometimes not much, especially when it comes to the people that form the bulk of our Zimpricecheck community, like the lower income and the informal sector, of which they're now 7% of the economy. So why are you trying to sell to us and so on? And that maybe sometimes it's not.
We watch skits as in that economy. Watch skits. And so putting on comical, I think.
Mama V would do a lot. I still remember talking to Mama V. You know,
yes.
So people treat those kids like sometimes, but I think that's changing now. Because they've started to notice those people actually have a lot of power and so on. So I still remember I got called by the guys at Bakers in the other time when the price of bread was $10. And so I said, we've seen this a lot of times, the price of bread going above $10. People are not going to buy anything bread that costs more than $1.
Not 10 cents.
I'm not going to buy it.
Hey, I don't. Sometimes.
How are you even going to give you the change?
You don't have the change.
Yeah, it becomes $2. So that tweet resonated with a lot of people, and a lot of comments and so on. And so as I was talking to him, I said, you are not the only one I'm speaking to today. I'm also going to be speaking to Mama V. He was saying, why did you remove that plastic thing that you used for the bread? You say a plastic cup, and maybe that's where the 10 cents is coming from. And then you put this in my. And then I was saying it's funny, but those guys actually have a lot of impact. Because people listen to them like, Mama V is right. That's their voice. So maybe people need to like you said, use those people more. Explain to Mama V, explain to the community, to those people who need skits and so on. I want this message to be communicated. Then find your own way to communicate that message. And these people usually they have a very good understanding of what works and what doesn't. So Jaya knows if I do this, people understand, and so on.
So I think
not the
Jaya Holiday.
This guy on this show. And Facebook as well.
The guy with the distorted. But the Holiday is also called Jaya.
Because it's
but this one is the double.
That guy is funny.
He is funny. But so you charge on something that marketing aspect. Because I think sometimes with Econet, So it's one of the biggest companies in Zimbabwe. And, compared to the rest of the market, whoever's working for Econet is upper middle class.
Yeah.
Definitely. The moment you start working for Econet, you're upper middle class. So it could be a problem that they no longer understand what people actually need or want, and they're not investing in understanding, or is this what people need?
It's not just that. It's stupid as well. Like, for years, remember, we were talking about, like, for years we complained. We're getting terrible YMAS and so on.
Yeah.
And then, like, off records, one of the reps was like, yeah, the thing is, with YMAS, they really don't care that much. They don't have to put too many resources to it because your voice doesn't matter as much as someone in Barcelona or like, it's like getting on a combi and then you complain like you've seen the combi guys. Guys, in English, and then the guy starts taking his own route. You don't see him saying it. It's like, that's the mentality. What's like, I'm not going to go there. Can you call these moms? And I'm so I think I understand them. It can be a headache to deal with a lot of that's why I said one of the things that these businesses don't understand is we understand it's hard to run a business.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you guys do as well.
Yeah.
We run businesses. There's a lot of regulations, a lot of we understand the mechanics. So it's weird, like sometimes it's just the message part of it. It's not working. Sending an SMS.
Yeah.
We're going to be making some changes. We've heard you're complaining. We're going to be making some changes. Sounds kept. It's one-way communication. We can't comment and say, what changes? We can't even ask questions. Maybe that's by design. Or maybe it's just so maybe it's just something cheaper to think because obviously WhatsApp, which is the most popular mode of communication, is a little bit locked in. It won't make much sense for them to send people WhatsApp messages which are unsolicited. That will get them in trouble. But just sending like a simple SMS, that can be an issue.
Okay. So I think finishing up on SmartBiz specifically. You touched on that marketing problem, and so maybe it's not clear right now who SmartSuite is for. So when you look at SmartSuite and what they are offering, who do you think is the target market, and who should be looking to SmartSuite?
Okay, so first of all, like the way I think, the way based on like what I feel, what I've heard, and the way I would think if I was a marketing executive at Econet, it's like SmartSuite is like for those people who can't buy Starlink kits, who can't afford Spy. But remember what you said about low value customers, like, do they really deserve the best? And so those people who can't afford the best, but they need an internet connection of some sort. Maybe you're a student, you're still going to college and so on. You really need, like, remember everything is online now. So maybe those low value customers who can't afford the kit, who can't afford fiber, who can't afford anything else, who have no choice. This is the choice for them. And it kind of explains why they did what they did. They made these changes because they could. They felt like we can get away with this. We can spread SmartBiz and just replace it with SmartSuite. This will result in increased revenue. No one's going to say anything about it. Like, even if they say it, it's just going to be noise. At the end of the day, people are still going to buy those bundles. Like, from a business point of view, it makes sense. It kind of reminds me of like how pharmaceutical companies in the United States work. It's price gouging, you know. So there was this new executive. He came into a big pharmaceutical company. They were selling tablets for like an affordable $5 or so. I don't know, like, which was already expensive per tablet because for chronic illness, this was the only medication available on the market. Right? And then he came and was like, "Why are we doing this? Let's just increase the price to $600 a tablet. We have the patents for this. We have, like, no one else is going to make this." That was the mentality, and there were no options. Everyone hated him for it. They called him Farmer Bro, if I'm not mistaken. So if you look at Farmer Bro, but no one could do anything. People still had to buy that medication. So I think that's kind of the mentality that went into these changes. Like, yeah, we're going to make this bundle. And no one is going to do anything about it. People are going to buy, we're still going to make money. If there's any noise, we'll deal with it. We don't care.
Because the reality is for most people, this is the only service that's
this is the only option. Because if you can't afford the starting kit or if you're in a hurry,
there's no capacity.
There's no capacity. So it's either you buy a kit and then you buy a bundle or you a roaming bundle or a business bundle, which is very expensive, $100. And if you could afford $100 a month, you're there fighting. So if you can't afford this, here you go.
Here's your 50 gig.
So from that point of view, it makes sense. They made this change because it maximizes everything for them. So I hate them, but there's a logic to it all.
There's a logic to it.
So I understand both sides.
True. Same. Like I understand why it is structured the way it is. I just don't like it. That's the thing.
No one does, except the executive and the shareholders.
They love it. But so I mean, RIP SmartBiz, excellent service. You died too soon. But so it's no longer the only option in the market. So I think
it never was.
It never was.
Okay, but, so remember what we said about the market being too crowded and so on. It just means that it reminds me of Bottom City. Like you have got 5-10 people offering the same thing. So bananas here, bananas there, bananas there. Everyone is selling those bananas. Maybe it's slightly different prices, $1 for 10, so maybe different qualities as well. Like they all don't all look the same. So there's Dolphin. So that was the, like, to be honest, when I got fed up with the trying to big limit, that was my go-to option. It was for cheapest. I was down online and then I see. Okay, I had heard about them, I had written about them, but I hadn't had the experience. I look at what they have online. No online ads work, by the way. They seem to know. They seem to know exactly what you need. Because maybe you've been complaining a lot. And so there's $55. You come, you get a free modem and so on. That's another thing that prevents us from moving from the whole equipment. So I go there, like I literally was in the middle of doing something. So there I'm like, let me just in the same street as me. Let me go and check them out. I go there. The sales lady was like really nice, explains how it works and so on. I'm like, don't bother with the technicalities. I know how it works. I just want something that I can work with. So I did a test in the like after they configured the whole thing because I made payment because the simple I got to. I mean, if it's $55, I figured like this is $10 more compared to what I'm paying because there's fate with having this was on the last day of my SmartBiz bundle. Like goodbye SmartBiz. So I get there and take some tests. Of course, not exactly like remember we talked about speeds. It's very rare what SmartBiz had like actually meeting them. So this was advertised as 20 megabits per second. I was getting 10. Like, I can live with 10. I know it's not what I signed up for, but I can live with this. So it's my need. So I go out with the route and so on. But I really didn't like the thing about carrying this giant thing with me. But I am like, it's the price I have to pay for good internet, I guess. So I took it home. Streaming wise, not bad. So I started thinking with it. Remember, I said I'll test it. So first thing, I want to see who is out in this. 99%, remember we talked about like 99% of the internet in Zimbabwe, you can expect leakage to be involved in that. So every time you do a transport, like a test, you can see the packets going through that liquid pipeline down to South Africa or wherever they're going, but mostly it's to South Africa. And so I did a test and then strangest thing. I'm not seeing anything between. It's just South African server at the end. I'm like, what? And then I started once I started thinking about it, I understood that's why they're out of this. But they want to, mask the whole thing, like they're hoping from infrastructure to infrastructure because they're MVM, or that makes sense. Obviously, maybe they would want to, I don't know, for some reason, they don't want you to know
exactly how it
which is like part of the what they do, they offer a managed service, so you're not supposed to know the technicalities.
Yeah.
So I know the typical customer.
Yeah. Because for most people,
most people find it just hard.
as long as it works.
But unfortunately, this 90% of the time it works for most people as well, because they just tell you if the light is blue, it means you can connect to the internet, which is simple.
Yeah.
You plug it in, the light turns red, and then it's blue, and it means you can connect to the internet. So, but unfortunately for me, the moment I get home, I notice things that I hate. For me, I don't care about sharing the password. I like to use what's called mark filter, blocking other people from my I can't do that because I'm locked out. Then I connect this to my TV box, my Mi box, which I use for streaming. The time is not updated because once you switch it off, it doesn't even battery time. It has to update. I actually have to manually correct the time. So in order for it to get connected, it could be, we can't go into that, but that's basically what it is. And then no streaming works except JSTV, because remember, JSTV doesn't like VPN, because these guys are using an IP address that was meant for the business, not the home user. So they blocked that because other people, like in the yesteryears, were using this to circumvent geoblocking. So you pretend you're in South Africa when you're just using that. So they've gone to a lot of trouble to mask the address, but that brings with it other problems. So, for example, you're trying to make a payment, some services, I don't like that. Why are you hiding? Yeah, you seem to be in South Africa, but you say in Zimbabwe, that doesn't make sense. And so if there is a fraud check, you're going to be flagged every time. So state-wise, fine. And then 90% of the time, if you're online, just watching TikTok videos, doing normal stuff that people do on the internet, you're going to be fine. But then, of course, how you want to know my experience. So it's not just good.
And we are talking about their LTE service, right? Because they do have fiber as well.
Right now it's LTE. Remember we said fiber. The thing is, remember they don't have infrastructure. So to be honest, what they're offering is ease of use. That's what they have on the table, not infrastructure. Infrastructure, they can't own that based on the license, type of license they have. So all they're doing is managing things on your behalf, which makes sense, which makes everything else that they do make sense. But then when things don't work, if you're an advanced user like me, it can be frustrating because normally it's something that, for example, I want to split my internet between, my Wi-Fi between what's called 5G and 2.4G. I want separate SSIDs. I want to do that. Sometimes I want to combine them. So simple things that I could do on my own is an advantage. I can't do that. But then again, it's managed the internet.
Which most people, I think, would actually love that it's managed for them.
So the support was good, especially in the early days. But then, as other people have said, it's gone down a little bit, which kind of makes sense because the more people, there's been an influx of people, especially the SmartBiz refugees looking for a new home. So he went there for the way it makes payments. If you're used to a company like Liquid, they have invested a lot of money in making sure that the infrastructure works. Of course, we always complain about them. We're always going to complain one more with right? But the thing is, if you forget to pay your bill, or God forbid you go through tough times and you just late paying your bill, they cut you off. Obviously, they have to. It's a business. But with Liquid, if you want to get reconnected, you just need to pay. Right? You just pay using Econet. You don't even need to come to town. Wherever you are, you can just pay. And the moment you make that payment, the system automatically detects. You don't even need to switch off your router anymore. With Dolphin, making payments is it's a whole other thing. So they do have a biller code, every week of cash, and then you send them a screenshot and so on. So it happened to me during it was a public holiday. It didn't seem like there was someone at work. There was this message on WhatsApp, okay, we'll get back to you. They only got back to me the following day. And I didn't even know what the billing day was. For example, with other companies, you get a 5-day grace period. And that's what the assumption was based on the infos that I got. And then I get home and then I was surprised. I wake a lot, so I didn't notice the public holiday. So I've been quite flaming payment and then there's no support. So support it's good. It's supposed to be managed, but there seem to be a limit in what you can get. When it comes to support, there is a limit. I think they're going to struggle, especially as more people join. Because my friend went there the other day, and I thought I had not so good experience. His was terrible because there were a lot of people waiting to get connected in there.
Wow.
And there was
So
a
they
whole
become
line.
too popular too soon.
Yeah,
They're
and
not prepared.
and that put a strain on the people that are on the support base. And like the treatment is like, if you don't have change, please go look for change. Like that nice sentiment at the end.
The typical Zimbricecheck experience kicks in.
Because they're not they overworked as well. Because they're now dealing with more people. And so that's
It's a good problem to have. All things considered. It's a new business. It's
not too hard a problem to solve as well. So this is good for them, and I think they should take this on to say, okay, there's this friction point because from what I'm getting from you, using the service itself, you are mostly happy with it. It was this other support side and these other configuration type stuff that majority of people will.
And then there's the CBT issue. If you have the CBT, it's a lottery. Sometimes just come one day, it's waiting there.
Because you showed us a speed test earlier.
And so sometimes around 10, 11 things go wrong. Like one thing that I've noticed is if you connect to a good base station or a good lake, or maybe they're using different if you connect to a good one, you get a good experience throughout the day. At the moment your router goes off and you turn it on again, you might not get the same experience. Like if you keep switching it on and off, eventually you reach another good station. So that's.
Do you have a backup or do you have a backup connection?
Liquid is my backup connection. Unfortunately, it's Europe now, so I'm not at home. Something is.
So when you're not at home, when you're struggling in town, do you have a backup?
Yeah, we do have fiber office. So but I don't like connecting to a shared connection and so on. Like it's a whole other thing because sometimes they do have issues and it's a captive portal. I don't like the experience, especially with the work that I do at servers where I screen IP addresses connecting and so on. So I have the IP address that I use. It's just a matter of me typing in my credentials and getting in. So with the web thing, there's another connection, another IP address and so on.
Because you're not the typical user. Because some of the needs don't even factor into most of us decision making. But it is good to look for.
It is good. But remember I said, I think the biggest issue is the VPN issue. Maybe if they could get an IP address block that's dedicated to them that they can then assign to their servers, maybe co-location into another that would fix the remaining problems for the typical user.
So just one question on you there. So if SmartBiz existed as it was then today, and Dolphin was an option as it is structured today, because I want the old SmartBiz users to understand what the experience is like the Dolphin with that context of what SmartBiz was. How would you rate the experience? Because there are those specific things, the VPN thing, and
I think it would be an apples to oranges kind of comparison because there are kind of some differences. For example, you can bring your OU with SmartBiz, they don't care. As long as it's out, even back then, you could use it in your phone if you're big not. With Dolphin, there's no other option. You don't get to look inside the box. So it's kind of different. And then there's the route that they give you, not very portable. It's just me being creative. So it's not. So it's a tough call to be honest. But if you're an old SmartBiz user, Dolphin will save you.
There are other options. There are other options. Like
there are other options as well.
There are other options like Techtail. Like, to be honest, I don't want to be unkind, but Techtail is not meant for serious internet connections. If you're just like, even if you're being accommodative, being kind, like, I don't know, maybe they're still in the testing phase or whatever. But that's not an internet connection you want to use. Like, think of SmartBiz after you've reached the 200 gig limit. That's the kind of experience you can expect to receive on a good day.
Yeah.
So yeah, not but at the end of the day, it's $10. What do you expect?
Yeah.
To be honest, it's not something.
Sometimes we have to be
if you're someone who wants to send free unlimited WhatsApp text messages on your phone, get Techtail by all means.
Yeah.
But if you want to use the wider internet, I can't see any use case for Techtail whatsoever. Like, I can't think of circumstances where you'll be like, okay, this is it. Techtail is my only option. There's so many. You are better off just buying that expensive smart suite bundle because that's a serious internet connection. This is the stuff of choice.
Okay, no, that's good. So I think we'll save Techtail for another day, and because there are other options, like you say.
Yeah.
And so today we were just focusing on SmartBiz versus Dolphin as well, and I think we will get into these other options because we were talking about Walmart's a lot. We used it for a while.
Yeah, it's gone now.
We'll get into that, so it's not geologue and everything. So I think, there is scope to get into all those other options because I think you call them SmartBiz refugees, and I love that because like the said they had reached like 100,000 users. So there are a lot of infuriated people right now, disenfranchised and looking for options. So they want to know these kinds of experiences, which is why we wanted to talk to you because you've been using Dolphin.
I worry though, like with all these refugees, like that's a lot of money on the table.
Yeah.
If I was like, I'm not sure what infrastructure Dolphin is using. If I leverage over that, I would pull that lever. That makes me get worried. That's why sometimes I'm very reluctant to recommend like this Dolphin. But then the cat's out of the bag anyway.
It is.
People are flocking.
Yeah.
So if I was a SmartBiz user, I wouldn't hesitate to recommend Dolphin, provided people understood the differences. Like, it's not going to be the same thing. There are some things that you need to understand, especially protocols. But the fact that if you, like, for example, if you move a lot to rent, like most, like 50% of the Zimbabweans are tenants. So these are the people that are starting to get the same. So if you're moving addresses, it's not going to take you don't need to notify anyone. Like, but with me, for a little bit, remember I said I've been trying to tell them I moved with my geolog line. Fortunately, it wasn't like moved from one server to another. I'm still in the same server, but I'm connecting to that old base station. It's a little bit distant away, like it's distant, it's a little bit far. So I'm getting a terrible signal, but I know I could get a better signal. It's been 2 years
trying to get that change.
So geologging, I think that's the thing I hate the most. I hate geologging more than I hate data caps, to be honest. Those are like, those ruin the internet. Maybe data caps, I can understand that. Geologging, I struggle to understand the logic behind that. Like, like the technical reasons I can look at this, but unfortunately, there's a lot of pushback from the engineers because it makes the job simpler. But your job as a network engineer is not supposed to be, how can I make my own job simple? It's how can I make this, optimize the experience of the customer, even if it means like, do you honestly think people at Google are having a good night's sleep, or Cloudflare? Those guys that have got the infrastructure that's used. Like, I always read these Cloudflare reports on incidences or how much data that they handle, like for every second, how many people are connected to the internet. Like, Cloudflare, it protects a lot of like websites and so on there for this content delivery network that they have, which is probably one of the best. They deal with abusive people, DDoS, like people trying to bring things down 10 terabits per second and so on. And these people, they're always handling this. Or sometimes they do a misconfiguration. They don't go around saying, yeah, customers were not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
They're supposed like, we didn't foresee that happening, we're sorry, and then we move on.
Yeah.
Which is what Econet was supposed to do. We try to make something good, but unfortunately it's not working. So we are changing this in a nice way.
Yeah.
Not come out with a defensive posture, you have guns, you're pointing them at us and say, you have to blame, it's your fault. We understand the running business.
Yeah.
Just be nice.
Yeah. I guess that was the biggest problem.
Yeah, be nice.
Okay, I think we've talked for too long.
Yeah.
But I think people can get something from the conversation. Because this is practical stuff. These are services we've used them. I haven't used Dolphin yet, but you've used it in.
Yeah.
And I think people can pick up what they can. And from what you're saying, because I was listening to it and thinking, you know what, I'm not too worried about those other technical things. Maybe the location thing or the VPN, that could be a nuisance at times, but it can not be a deal breaker for me.
Yeah.
So I think,
and maybe the other thing is sometimes they're just in a small company, but they do have national coverage by virtue of them writing on it. So sometimes they're not so sure themselves. Like, do you have coverage in Yanga? Maybe they have to test this out. So it's not an ideal thing for, let's say, if you're in Yanga saying, I'm going to arrive next week on an unrelated journey. Maybe I have great distances that you do accept occasionally. It's not ideal the support, but I can find a way around this. So I can pick up the router, take it to Yanka and use it there. What if it doesn't work once you're in Yanka? What are you going to do? They've got a 5-day return policy, but that means a trip back to Harare.
Yeah, that's expensive.
So maybe that's something that you want to look into. They would want to look into. Maybe since they're now getting popular, find ways to cater for those customers. Maybe you have a service, okay, you can put it on a bus or something. Like, it seems pedestrian a little bit, not very professional. But you're small and plucky. Find like a selling point.
Yeah, because we're operating within Zimbabwe, so sometimes the solutions we have to come up with might not look as polished as what we see outside. But
one thing I learned, from Lyft, with the company Lyft, the guy came to Zimbabwe. He came to Zimbabwe, so he learned a lot of lessons from that resilience that we have. And he wasn't ashamed. He even took the whole name Lyft, and most people didn't want to be associated with the name. I'm looking at it, it's considered a premium brand in the US. Like, how do you even manage this? If this was in Zimbabwe, calling your company Lyft, how? Lyft. This is embarrassing. So you couldn't find other names. We get creative when it comes to names, but sometimes the solution matters more than the label you want.
True. And on that note, I think we'll end there.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you for gracing us with the presence.
So I love the opportunity that I can get to vent.
That's because you did vent a bit,
Which is odd. I'm generally quite patient, but when it comes to these things, I get very animated and passionate.
Which is understandable for something that you have to use every single day. So, and it's passion that the likes of Econet should really look at and say, you know what? This is good. It is good that people were this passionate about SmartBiz. And people are not vibing with SmartSuite. They will use it begrudgingly, but there is opportunity there. The demand is there, there is a capacity, there is a lot of...
And like you were saying, Kuti, SmartSuite is actually good if you're coming from private Wi-Fi from those bundles.
Yeah, it is.
But coming from SmartBiz,
from SmartBiz,
so at some point, SmartBiz has ended. That big betrayal has ended. And then it's going to fade out of the picture. And the options that are there will compete with each other. They won't compete with the history anymore. And at that point, SmartSuite Well, I think
it will make sense.
It
In the long
yes,
run,
please.
people will.
Honestly, I think Netplan had a kind of like something to do with that because they weren't moved by this whole stuff.
They never played.
whatever.
Yeah.
So Econet like, but they're doing fine.
Yeah. Like this.
Why
Yeah.
should we like maybe?
Why should we keep data away?
Yeah, maybe we should find something because obviously the package is a little bit better.
Mm.
Although like the experience is sort of based on people who have used smart suits, like it's not that great. No, it's like I would expect for prices that they're charging, they maybe just use the same infrastructure that they use for private Wi-Fi. In fact, the only like remember if we remove the geolocking and if we say these bundles are available to anyone, I would want to live in such a world where smart suit is available to everyone. This is why you call me to hey come to my show, come in, sit down, fill in your paperwork. That it needs to end.
Yeah. I guess since it's no longer an unlimited package.
Yeah.
I mean, can we just use our old lines?
Why
sign up from home?
Why geolog this? And I suspect this is going to happen eventually.
So I'm talking into more as well. So we're going to say we're done.
Yeah.
So
always a pleasure.
No, thanks, man. So guys, this is the start of something. So we'll see you in the next one.
Oh yes, it is. It is still going to be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that is.
So cool.